I would like to welcome everyone to the noon meeting of the Kiwanis Club. Today our prayer will be led by Tucker Johnston and our song and pledge by Gerald Gilbo.
Bow our heads as we pray in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Oh Lord, we ask that you bless us, men and women of the Kiwanis Club of Lafayette, those that are here, those that are not here, those that haven't been here for a while that we're able to fellowship with today. We ask that you bless our activities as we serve the community. We ask that you bless our speaker and his activities as he serves our state. Watch over him as he continues in his travels today. We thank you for these gifts that we are receiving in the form of food and fellowship, and we realize that they are from the bounty of your Son, Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. My country is of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of thy pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, it looks like we have a full crowd today with a number of guests. So we're going to start with the introduction of our guests. I think Chad Cole has a guest with him today. Welcome, Angela. Good to see you again. Let's see here, Mike Smith. Oh, I'll come back.
Well, I'm delighted to have with me today Dr. Ethel Smith. Among her other notable accomplishments, she brought me into the world.
Yeah. Welcome. Jules, you have a guest with you?
I do. I have my cousin Paul Murray from the metropolis of Parks, Louisiana.
Welcome, Paul. Let's see, our back table, no one in the back. No guest at our table over here. No guest over here. For our announcements, as always, we'll start with our service announcements. And so Jason Fontenot is going to be honored this week with 15 years of service in the club. He's not here with us today, but over his years, he's done a lot for this club, so we honor him. Also, we're going to honor Ralph Peters, who is here today. So thank you, Ralph, for your 15 years of service to the club. We've given him. Yeah, you came to a better place, though, Ralph. So our next announcement is for Carrie Chopin. Carrie's run the Bug program now for a number of years, and he's done an incredible job. We just had our most recent Bug program, so thank you, Carrie, for all you did for running that program. Raise the roof, Carrie. Thank you. We have our Get Out and Fish program coming up. April, well, it's not our program, but the Get Out and Fish program is April the 7th. It's going to be next to Faubacher Field. Wildlife and Fisheries will be stocking the pond. So please bring the kids. We're going to be providing the food. The Kiwanis Club will be providing the food. So come out. It'll be a good time. Next, I'm going to have Casey Abear give a quick comment on the buddy benches that we're going to install. Casey.
We if everybody remembers, a couple of months back, we did buddy benches at 12 of the Lafayette schools. We're going to do the other 11 next week while school is out, so that way we don't have to run into the bus situation with students and teachers. So it will be next Wednesday. If anybody's available to come help, I may need one extra person. Jason's coming. The guy coming this time, we'll have an extra body with him as well. So if anybody wants to come, let me know. I'll let y'all know the route we're taking, or if y'all want to just come help with a bench or two, we may have to put them together this time. Last time they came already built. So just get in touch with me. Y'all have any questions, but next Wednesday. Okay. Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you, Casey. Appreciate all you do, man. The next announcement that I have is for a Kiwanian who hasn't been here in a while, and he's back, Mr. Andre Doge. Welcome back, brother. We've all had you in our prayers. For our final announcement, I feel very honored to be the person to make this announcement. As a club, we've decided to honor 2 members in a very special way. Our club is honoring these 2 members by making a contribution to the Eliminate Project on their behalf. By making this contribution on their behalf, they are the recipients of the Walter Zeller Fellowship Award. As a recipient of this award, these Kiwanians will forever be memorialized in the records of Kiwanis International. The 2 recipients of this award have served in this club for over 40 years. These 2 members, yeah, they each have served. These 2 members are the greatest example of what it means to be a Kiwanian. By pure coincidence, they both go by Bob. Please welcome up Robert Cole and Robert Delahousie. You can't win around here, Billy. You can't win around here, Billy. Yeah. So we are so proud to be able to make that announcement today. Thank you for all y'all have done. I need to get a pedestal or a stool or something. So next we're gonna represent or have another Kiwanian come up, Brett Bayard, to introduce our speaker.
So usually I have a little bio to read, which I don't have today because, quite honestly, if you don't know who he is, it's kind of shame on you. But what I'm going to do is kind of give a personal story when I first met Mr. Billy. And he's going to look at me like, who are you? Because he don't remember this, I'm sure. But a few years ago, I was a leader with the Boy Scouts. And I was at the local LCG council meeting. And our boys were all there. And like usual, the mayor calls them up and they give a little speech, talk about what they're doing in the Boy Scouts. Well, I wasn't in uniform, so I stayed behind. And as they're all up, Mr. Billy came, sit next to me, was asking me, you know, what's going on, what you guys are doing, what kind of things we're doing. And ultimately, I gave him my business card. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, I get a check in the mail, made out to Troop 10. Personal check from Mr. Billy, and actually a pretty nice donation. Out of the blue, no fanfare. Greatly appreciate it. And on behalf of the Boy Scouts, maybe I can thank you now in person. So please welcome Mr. Billy Nungesser.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here today. You know, I was telling a story a minute ago. I was vice president of the Old Perry Walker Key Club, and I used to go to a senior home and play checkers and visit with the seniors in Algiers, and they all complained that they locked the doors and wouldn't let them go outside because the road was too close and they were fearful they'd walk into the roadway, and it was a beautiful yard they had outside. So at one of the Kiwanis meetings where the president and myself were speaking, I talked about that, and the Kiwanis members said, well, why don't you do something about it? And I said, well, what could we do? He said, well, why don't we raise the money and build a fence and clear the land, and they'll have a nice outside park. And ironically, me and my wife had retired in Plaquemines Parish and eventually rode out Katrina, not a very smart thing to do, and then run for parish president. But every time I take General de Gaulle, I pass that fence. And it reminds me of what the Kiwanis Club taught me as a young man in the Key Club about serving others and serving your community. And that fence is a great reminder every time I pass that home, seeing those people outside enjoying the outdoors. But I got that from the Kiwanis. So I'm a proud member of the Algiers Kiwanis, and thank you for what you do. And like I said, it's a real honor to be here today. I'm going to go through a little PowerPoint of what the Lieutenant Governor does, where we are, talk about some of the good things going on in the state, and discuss some of the things we're doing with the budget and how we're getting around all the budget situations in Baton Rouge. And a lot of these ideas and thoughts have come from people like yourself. So hopefully I'll have enough time afterwards to get some questions, ideas, or thoughts. A lot of people know these are the departments that are under the Lieutenant Governor: state parks, museums. I'm over the library system, Volunteer Louisiana, Chaffalaya Basin. What a lot of people don't realize is we fund a lot of these departments with tourism dollars that are earmarked, dedicated in that 0.03 cents of the sales tax that goes to tourism. Every year, they cut the budget of these departments, and we have to make it up with tourism dollars. When I got in office, I realized we were leaving a lot of federal grants on the table because about 5 years ago, they zeroed out the arts. The state does not fund any money for the arts. It went from $5.4 million down to zero. Well, we give about $1.3 million, $1.4 million to arts programs out of tourism every year, and we get matching federal grants. I just could not fund those programs that are so important around the state. Another service we provide is all of the programs for the blind through the library. Well, a program that was cut out. I can't not do that. We also provide internet service for every library around the state. In a lot of small communities, that's the only access those communities have to internet service, another vital service that I just would not fund. So as we look at the tourism dollars continue to shrink, and they continue to pile it on to the tourism. The past administration, about $4 million. This year they're asking me to fund $8.9 million of other services out of tourism, and I'll meet Wednesday morning with the governor to discuss that. Now, to give you an idea of where tourism has come, how many people know who this guy is? It's the Michelin Man. Well, in 1957, Michelin Tire came up with the first travel guide. Before that, there were no tourist commissions. There was no promoting tourism anywhere. But they came up with a little guide they put on their counter, and you'd take it and you'd hopefully travel and use more tires. So from 1957 to where we are today, it's big business. As a matter of fact, tourism in this state generated more revenue than anything other than property tax, income tax last year. Over $1 billion in taxes that you and I didn't have to pay, a little over $600 a household, and it continues to grow. It employs over 230,000 people, and last year we created 6,000 new jobs in tourism, and I see the sky as the limit, and I'll tell you a little bit about our best asset for tourism. Now, one way we're really going to grow tourism around the state is the international traveler. Last year, Louisiana was second in the country in increase in international travel, and that's pretty good. We had a 37% increase, and that's before the direct flight from France and Germany, London and Germany, that is going to give us direct impact of people coming to New Orleans, and my job is to get them to head this way and see more of Louisiana than just New Orleans. So a great opportunity. They stay longer, they spend more money, and they don't just come to see one city or one area. Great opportunity for us to get them around the state. One way we're going to do that, the trails and byways. These are trails and byways throughout Louisiana that people can download and look at the great things to see on the scenic byways off the beaten path, get off the interstate. Something we're working on right now is a movie trail. Our foreign trip this year is to China. As more people, young people are leaving China to visit the United States, they want to go where movies were shot and where people were shot, like Bonnie and Clyde. So it's a great opportunity for us to highlight and get people moving around Louisiana to all those great areas where movies were shot. Now, with the budget continuing to shrink, we've got to think outside the box of ways to promote Louisiana. One thing we did 2 years ago when I first got in office, before I was even sworn in, Dick Clark Productions came to me and said, look, we want to move the Miss America pageant to Louisiana. We need $3 million. I said, look, I don't get sworn in for a couple of weeks. I don't know if we'll have $3 million. But what are you doing at midnight when y'all drop that stupid ball in New York? So well, after we do that, we go to sleep. I said, well, we still have an hour in Louisiana. Can we put together a show around the Sugar Bowl to bring that show to Louisiana? So we partnered with the Sugar Bowl, New Orleans Tourism, and the state, and we're in our third year this year of rocking in the New Year's. That show had a 26% increase the first year, 24% this year, more viewers than the Grammys. And to give you an idea of the value, the Grammys charges about $2.5 million for a 30-second commercial. We've got 30 million plus watching for an hour this event in New Orleans. Now, in my handshake deal, when I first shook their hand, they agreed that they would cut away to two other cities. First year they didn't do it. I kind of boycotted them this year, and they put a little plug in there for Lafayette and Shreveport. We sat down 2 weeks ago to talk about extending that contract for 3 years. They're going to do a little bit more, they said, this year of cutting away to other cities other than New Orleans. But think about it, 30 million people watching TV. You know, what's my New Year's resolution? And, honey, where are we going to go on vacation next year? Great opportunity, something we could never afford to pay for. But those are the kind of things that we're thinking outside the box to get more bang for our buck. Now, the one place in Baton Rouge where they do have money is a seafood promotion board, but don't tell anybody. Keep that to us. When I got in office, we were spending that money everywhere. And early on, it was shifted from wildlife and fishery under the lieutenant governor, but we were spending $300,000 for a booth in Chicago where 4 or 5 people went to sell their seafood, and they got a pretty good price for it, but the return on investment, and that's not really what BP intended the money to be used for. So we sat down with BP, and that money was supposed to end June 1st of this year. We asked them what would they like to see us do, and we threw some ideas out. We give seafood to every university. They invite the local restaurants to cook their best seafood dish, and they sell tickets. Northwestern last week sold 600 tickets at $150 a head. All the money goes to the university. We promote Louisiana seafood. We help out at universities. This past year, we donated all the crawfish here in Lafayette for the Special Olympics, where they sell crawfish, so all their money went to Special Olympics. So we're looking to do great things with that money that help our cities, our states, charity, our universities, and we still enjoy great Louisiana seafood. Now, one thing we do every year is we have the seafood cook-off. And last year, Bonnie Bro was the first queen of seafood, and she represented us in the national competition in New Orleans. We moved that cook-off last year to Lafayette at the Cajun Dome, had over 2,000 people. We're going to have it again this year here, but it has done great things for our local chefs. She has now opened her new restaurant. I went to the ribbon cutting the other day in Breaux Bridge, and other chefs that have won that award have gone on to do TV shows, the Food Network. So this has really been a boost by crowning a king of seafood every year in Louisiana and using them to promote seafood around the country and around the world. It has given a lot of our chefs a real opportunity to get some national exposure. Another thing we did this year, for the second year, we pardoned the crawfish. We took one lucky crawfish out the Atchafalaya Basin. We drove it to New Orleans in the Mint, and we pardoned him while his family got boiled alive. Now, we partnered with Zatarans, and they named this crawfishy meal after the founder of Zatarans, who came up with that mix a little over 100 years ago. And we got a lot of free national press. We kick off, we do it the first Tuesday after Mardi Gras every year to kind of kick off the crawfish season. Now, I thought I got invited to the White House last St. Patrick's Day, and I was there with 6 other lieutenant governors. And when the president and the vice president walked out, everybody rushed over to the president. I walked up to the vice president, and we're talking about how we're recovering from the flood because we had taken them around before they were elected to show them the flood across Louisiana. And I said, Mr. Vice President, we're doing fine. It's going to be a long recovery. I said, but let me tell you, I know Thanksgiving is coming up, and I know up here at the White House, you guys get to pardon the turkey. He said, yeah, that's right. I said, well, listen, back in Louisiana, first Tuesday after Mardi Gras, we pardoned the crawfish. Told him the story about the family getting boiled alive. He looked at me and said, son, what the hell are you talking about? So it didn't go over quite as well as I thought with the vice president, but USA Today picked up the story. We got a lot of national press about crawfish in Louisiana, and there again, I think we valued the free press at a little over $1 million that we didn't have to pay for. So those kind of things we have a little fun with, but we also are getting creative and thinking outside the box. Now, a lot of people know we've got budget problems in Baton Rouge. It's no secret. What a lot of people don't realize is the lieutenant governor's budget over the last 10 years has been cut by about 50%. Every governor has seemed to take and punish the lieutenant governor for some reason or another. The last governor took $54 million that was generated by state parks in 8 years and swept that account. And that's why we have struggled to keep the parks open, and we've got about a $7 to $9 million backlog of repairs and maintenance. We are doing a lot of things in-house ourselves, where before they would hire contractors, saving a lot of money to stretch those dollars. We've got a long way to go. But I know we'll never get to the top of the list in Baton Rouge, nor should we. Health care, roads and bridges, education, those things have to get funded first. So we started looking around the country to see what other states do. How can we do better with less money? And we, last year, passed legislation to form the Culture, Recreation, and Tourism Foundation. And that foundation, we will do private-public partnerships with our state parks and maximize some income. This is a resort in West Virginia, Stonewall Resort. That's in a state park. That resort has brought in $50 million to the park system. We own 500 acres right next to Fontainebleau State Park on beautiful Lake Pontchartrain. We've got 4 companies looking to do this there. We will do a partnership, get a minimal rent and a portion of the gross sales, and bring millions into the state park system. In Alabama, a company put in zip lines. They pay the state park system $500,000. We just moved a gentleman at Boga Chitter. We let him move his horseback operation into the state park, no cost. We get $2 a half day and $4 a whole day for trail rides. Hundreds of people have gone up there and taken advantage. As a matter of fact, they just filmed a national TV show with the trail riding in Louisiana at that state park. We want to do things that make good sense for the local community, enhance the visitation at our state parks, and help us raise some money so we don't have to go back to the taxpayers. Looking at other states that have done this, I believe in a matter of years, we can relieve the burden of our museums and state parks off the back of the taxpayer and generate enough money to give out grants to other things that are important to culture, recreation, and tourism. They've done it in other states. We just got to take a business approach to running our state parks. As a matter of fact, when I got in office and I got the state park team together, and I said, look, our goal is to make money with the state parks, a gentleman in the back of the room said, Mr. Nungesser, I've been here 31 years. These state parks will never make money. And 3 months ago, 2 state parks made money for the first time. And all we did was, instead of having a plumber at every state park, we've got a team that goes around in 3 regions of the state. We eliminated 68 unfilled positions and turned those state parks into moneymakers. And we believe every year we're going to add 3 or 4 more parks just by saving monies and contracts and working with local municipalities to minimize some of the costs of the state parks. But this private-public partnership is going to put us in a new day with our state parks. If you've got an idea or a thought that you want to do, one thing we won't do, we won't let it compete with local business. It's going to have to be something the local community, elected officials, everybody's on board with. We're not going to let somebody open a restaurant in a state park if it's going to keep people from going to the local community and eating at those places. We want to make it a win-win, and we want it to be local Louisiana companies or entrepreneurs that want to do this. We've got at Chico State Park, over the years, we tore down the cabins on the whole side of the lake. We've got a beautiful road and infrastructure there. We'll never have the money to build those cabins back. But so I got up at the Rotary up in that area of the state, and I said, look, if somebody wants to build cabins there and sell them to the snowbirds coming down, we'll do a 99-year lease on those lots. You'll bring people into your community, they'll eat and shop in your community, and we'll get some money over that 99-year lease for that land. It's a win-win for the state park, win-win for the local community. So we've got 2 or 3 real estate people looking at that state park and what they might be able to do to enhance the visitation to the area. There's nothing off limits that doesn't make good sense if it helps your community. Now, something that we also discovered at looking at other states is they've seen a boost in tourism by encouraging staycations. And everywhere I go, I ask people, and I'll ask you today, do me a favor and take one vacation that you would normally leave Louisiana and go see a part of Louisiana you haven't seen. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. I got up in front of a group of high school seniors, and I asked them to go home and ask their parents to staycation here in Louisiana. I went through my little dog and pony show, and when I finished, the little girl in the front row, I took questions. Her first question was, so Lieutenant Governor, where are you going on your staycation? She got me. I froze. So I had to think quick. I said, Toledo Bend and Natchitoches. She goes, okay. So I went home that night and I told my wife, we're going to Toledo Bend and Natchitoches. But the week before Christmas, took my in-laws, we went and fished Toledo Bend, caught some fish. They fry them up in the resort there for you that night. Then we went to Natchitoches. And my mother-in-law, if you ever been to the hardware store in Natchitoches, they've got every game from when you were a kid. It's like going back in time. Not only did she spend 3 hours there shopping, but when she got back home and talked to her relatives in Houston, 20 of her relatives from Houston have now gone to Natchitoches to visit. So that ripple effect is going to help us grow. When you discover a place you really like, you'll go tell your friends and family, and it can really boost and help a lot of small communities all over the state by us just vacationing and staycationing. We're promoting one parish each month and all the great things to do there. A lot of parishes don't have the money. So by us going to that parish and doing radio, billboards, and social media, promoting the great things in that area to do, it's really helping us bring people to new areas of the state that they've never visited before. And I'm encouraged by the feedback we're getting from people that when we do a radio spot and they say, I didn't know that was there, and they went and had a great time. Now, if I can't get you to do it, I'm going to get to you through your kids. We got a federal grant to put together a program, K through 12, uniquely Louisiana. And we went before the Bessie board and got approved to put this in all the schools, and you can download it at home. But it's fun facts and it's historical facts about all the great things in Louisiana. Poverty Point, World Heritage Site, some of the old museums, some of the historical sites. And our hopes is your kids will go home and say, Mom, I learned about Poverty Point today. Can we go there? So if I can't get to you, I'll get to you through your kids, hopefully learning some of the unique things about Louisiana, and it'll make them want to go there. Another thing we kicked off this year is the Bass Trail. When I was campaigning around the state, I ran into a guy, Carol Michoud, up in Shreveport. And he had a bonder about this thick, and he had worked on this Bass Trail for 15 years. And I said, sir, I'd love to go through it all with you, but I'm campaigning. If I win, I'll come back and talk to her. He says, sure, I've heard that from 2 lieutenant governors already. Well, 2 weeks after the election, I drove to Shreveport and sat down, and this is his Bass Trail. It's a little piece of it because he has many, many options. But what we did is you get a passport, you take your kids around, fish to different lakes. We got some great lakes, and I'm really encouraged. We've had a lot of single moms bring their kids out fishing that have never fished before. Our park rangers are helping the kids fish, and it's getting them out the house and getting them to a state park. So we're looking to continue to grow and expand this. If you sign up, you get a little sticker in the mail, and then if you go to all of them, you get a gift in the mail from the state park system, and it's getting kids out the house, and they're discovering we really got some great places to fish. You know, Toledo Bend was the #1 bass lake 2 years in a row. So we really should take a better advantage of the great fishing we have at the state parks. Another thing we're doing this year is we're promoting the horse industry. Never before we allow in each area of the state, they have events. They really don't have the money or the ability a lot of times to reach out beyond the small area that they promote their horse event. And we looked at other states. Texas has a circuit, and they've got hundreds of people that travel that circuit. Then they get in their trail and head across Louisiana and go do the circuit in Mississippi. Well, we want those people to spend some time in Louisiana. Last year, we kicked off the Crawfish Classic, 3 locations around the state. We had about 150 people come into Louisiana and take advantage of that, but we're looking to grow that. We've got these great arenas all over the state, and by forming a website for the horse tourism, we're able to promote all of the events all over the state to anybody that signs up that's interested in horses. And we've already seen an increase in all of the local events around the state just by sharing those events, not only with horse people in Louisiana, but Mississippi, Arkansas, and Texas. We're starting to bring more people in for those local events. Another idea came from somebody that said we've got all these arenas, we don't do nothing to promote them. And those horse people, they love to come see small town Louisiana. So a great opportunity there to increase rural tourism in our state. Now, one thing I do need your help with is the ambassador program. I wish we had the money to promote each and every city and town and all the unique things to do there. We don't, but you do. You can sign up as an ambassador. You post your pictures. If you want to do a little video, whether it's a fishing trip. Now, for Mardi Gras, we got some videos we couldn't use, so don't send us any of those. But what a great opportunity for you to tell a story about your town and what's special about your city. And if you don't think it works, this is a picture of the Gothic jail in DeRidder. Now, those are ghosts on the left and right side of that jail. I don't know if they're real. The lady that took this picture swears by them, but when we posted this picture, 4,000 people went to DeRidder to look for that ghost. So it's working for DeRidder. So if you've got an idea or thought, post it. We'll share it with the world, and it's really working. I got to tell you a quick story. My first tourism trip was to Canada, and we brought 28 tourism folks from around the state, and we've got such great ambassadors. The people in tourism really love what they do, and are great ambassadors for our state. And I was supposed to get up and give a boring speech like I'm doing today, but I let each one of them get up and talk about their city, their town. And while they spoke, I went around to the tables of the travel agents and tour operators that send people to the United States from Canada. And I asked them, tell me why you send people to Louisiana. You know, of course, you heard the food, the music. But at each table, somebody had a story about the way we treat people. There was a group of seniors that were in Randall's eating dinner, and this lady was teaching people in the corner how to Zydeco dance. And she went over and dragged them out their chair and taught them the Zydeco dance. This travel agent told me 3 years later, those people still say that is the best trip they've ever been on. And there was a couple eating lunch in Crawley, and the lady loved the bread pudding, and the waitress took it upon herself to go in the kitchen and bring the chef out. Not only did he write it down, he gave her his phone number in case she messed it up. That doesn't happen anywhere else in the world that they send people. He says, you know, y'all invite strangers to your backyard to eat crawfish. But I came home so proud of Louisiana and that's why the tourism. We had our 5th record-breaking year, and we got less money to spend. But it's because we send people home with a warm and fuzzy feeling they don't get anywhere else. So it's our people that make this safe. We knew that, but it was great to hear it from those tour operators, and the stories went on and on and on. Each one of them had a story where people went back to Canada and said, those people really treat you like your family. So it made me so proud of Louisiana. Now, this year, we rolled out the new brand. Jay Darden had come up with Pick Your Passion. Somebody said when I got in office, why don't you change that? I said, well, first off, the people of Louisiana are very passionate. And secondly, Jay works for the governor and has to approve my budget. So I had to give it a little break. But we looked at how do we brand Louisiana? It shouldn't be my idea or your idea. We should brand it that sells Louisiana the best. So we looked at the other states, and pure Michigan, their tourism numbers went up 30-something% when they branded it Pure Michigan. Matter of fact, there's Pure Michigan water, coffee. It is Pure Michigan. So we hired that guy, and we did focus groups in Louisiana, in Dallas, Atlanta, Denver, and into Canada. And they throw out names, and we've got a whole video of what they did, and we even did one in a foreign language. And it all came back to 6 logos. 100% of the people out of those 6 picked our new logo, which is Louisiana Feed Your Soul. Now, knowing we don't have the money to blast that out across the country, we had to get creative. So on Mardi Gras Day, with our partners around the state, we went to Dallas, Houston, Atlanta. I was in Washington, D.C. We wrapped a food truck. We gave away king cake. And we said, look, today it might be Tuesday in Washington, but it's Mardi Gras all over Louisiana. We got several $1 million of free press. People from Europe, Germany was taking pictures, eating their king cake, sharing it back home. They even posted it on a billboard in Times Square. But we rolled up our sleeves, got out there on the streets, and got millions of dollars of free publicity when we rolled out our new brand on Mardi Gras Day around the country. So we're real proud of that. We need your help sharing that. And before I take questions, I'm going to share a little video about how we feed our soul in Louisiana.
Mention Louisiana, and images of Mardi Gras, jazz clubs, and late-night revelry are most likely the first things that come to mind. But there is far more to Louisiana than the Crescent City. And likewise, New Orleans is much more than the French Quarter and Fat Tuesday. Louisiana is a land of contrasts. Its different regions vary in physical appearance, from gentle rolling hills and lakes in the north to bayou swamps and the Gulf of Mexico in the south. Perhaps there is no better example of contrast than Louisiana's culture. Here, the American South meets French heritage. The result? A genteel southern pace enveloped by a zest for life. And it's that pursuit of enjoyment that threads throughout Louisiana. Dancing to Zydeco in a local music hall, spicy boiled crawfish and the dare of how high, casting a reel and hooking a fat bass, flying through a sea of grass on an airboat, the uneasy and mysterious thrill of touring a haunted antebellum home at night, the sound of jazz, blues, and soul drifting from back alleys and open doors. And yes, the craziest party in America, perhaps even the world. Louisiana isn't for spectators. It's for participants. For those that want to feed their soul and not only live the moment, but to become the moment. Here, excitement is a constant pursuit, and one that's easily found. Louisiana. Feed your soul.
Thank you all very much. We got a few minutes. Anybody have any questions? Comments, questions? Yes, sir.
Palmetto Park, how is it doing on the list?
We will not close any parks. So if you hear that, now look, I gotta rumble that around a little bit to get my budget back right. But we're not. I will not close any. Closing parks or museums is not an option when we're trying to attract more. It sends the wrong message. So when we won't close anything. We're actually working with local sheriffs. We're working with people to bridge those gaps. And as we get this foundation started and growing in money, they'll get better. But we're not going to close anything. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the public-private partnerships and so forth, all this money coming in. What assurances you get that the legislature will not say, well, we can use this money?
Great question. You know, that's why we set up the foundation, and I lobbied the legislature last year to pass a bill to fund this foundation. They cannot touch it. That's why we had to pass a bill. And you know, yesterday I went before a committee. I'm not a big lottery scratch-off person, but if you remember, we created a lottery to make education the best in the country. And we moved education money, we filled it with lottery money. Well, yesterday I went before a committee and I had someone introduce a bill for 3 scratch-offs, one for vets, seniors, and special needs people in Louisiana, the 3 areas we cut the most every year. And I got pushback from the lottery lady, well, you're robbing education. I said, no, y'all already did that. I said, but they had to defer it because I have to make sure, because in Texas, a scratch-off of vets brought in $30 million. In Iowa, one for seniors brought in $11 million. People don't mind. Louisiana is very giving people. I saw that during the flooding when we know our money's going to a good cause. And they said, well, why don't you just get them dedicated? I said, no, because y'all will steal the money. If this does pass, it'll go to a vote of the people. And they will decide if they trust the veterans groups and the Gold Star Mothers and the Council on Aging in that group, and then a lady from Special Olympics, ARC, and all the foundations that help special needs people in our state. Less the prize money, the money goes to them. Legislature can't touch it. That's the only way I will get involved and work for these things. Because you're right, if I worked that hard and then they swept the money, I'd have to fist fight with somebody in Baton Rouge. So no, we've got to make sure when we put our money somewhere, it's going for that cause. And you're right, they've always left a little language in those bills. They tried to say, well, you can just mark them. No, we're going to go to a vote of the people and make sure. But that foundation is set up to where that money, less the land raw value, which I paid to the state, anything above that goes to the foundation. And we took the model from like the LSU Foundation, where the state, they got all that land, they paid a minimal amount, they built hotels and created all this wealth within that foundation. So, and we made sure in that bill, the money can only go to culture, recreation, and tourism, so we can give out grants to local areas, whatever. I really see a day, if you look at South Carolina, what they've done, it's phenomenal. They've got hotels and things in state parks that are generating millions for that park system. Yes, sir.
Governor, I guess we did the same thing. We did stay in Louisiana vacation. So I guess the last 13 years, we used to do New Orleans every year for Christmas with the family. And about 4 years ago, we switched it off to Natchitoches. So I love Natchitoches, especially during the lights at Christmas time. It's one of the best. And it was a good switch. But my question comes down to the PGT Beauregard statue. Did we ever make a determination if that is a state-owned property and statue? And if so, if it is state-owned, what are the repercussions for the people that stole it and is holding it hostage and ransom against the state of Louisiana citizens?
The problem, it belongs to City Park. And the problem is the people that are appointed on that board connected to the city. So I sat down with the new mayor who I believe doesn't have the same ego or that our present mayor has there, and she can't commit to anything till she's in office. I don't know if we'll see it go back up there, which I would like to see, but I feel pretty confident she's not going to do what this mayor would have done with them. You know, I was pretty vocal in the committee of while we were doing this, and it's a sad day for Louisiana. You know, we got so goes New Orleans, so goes the state of tourism. We saw that after Katrina. The whole state suffered because of New Orleans. And if you're like me, every year I hold my breath that crime doesn't get any worse and they do something, because the French Quarter is not the most attractive place to go. So I'm working on I get beat up on coming up with ideas that are kind of thinking outside the box. But I told some of the people in the city council and the mayor that New Orleans is never going to fix the French Quarter. You see, there's not enough voters there. And if a tourist gets shot, they go home and don't vote here. Someone uptown gets shot, they vote here. So I'm looking at the possibility of making the French Quarter a state park and putting a range on every corner, making it the safest place, fixing the streets, the lights, getting rid of the gutter punks, and making it the shining, like Branson, Missouri, or Jackson Hole, Wyoming. When you go there and you walk down the street and you go, wow, this is beautiful. Here's the #1 attraction in the state, and we hold our breath every year. And for 30 years, no offense to local elected officials, we've been doing the same thing for 30 years, hoping it gets better. So unless we can remove it from the city's control, it's never going to get better. And I think it's important to the state to make that investment. And when I say, and a lot of people say, well, you're going to take money from other state parks. No, we're looking at the tax base of the quarter. And if I had to guess, I'd say for less than half of what they're spending on it, we could run it a lot better and give them the other half the taxes to do what they want with it. But I met with the citizens. I met with the business groups next week. And look, if it's not the right thing to do, I don't want to do it. But we got to think outside the box and look at other options. Yes, sir.
Does that mean that Louisiana will be the only state that has a state park with a strip club in it?
We'll discuss that later. There's some challenges. You know what? I always one in a crowd. Yeah, we got a church and a strip club in it, so 2 churches. Yes, sir.
We just saw video. Is there a way to get access to that video?
Yes, where you can download it on the of our website. But we just met with the team that's going to be cutting up in the 30 and 1 minute videos, and there's a little too much New Orleans in there, and so we're adding some scenes from around the state to give it more of a Louisiana flavor. So absolutely, and if you want a T-shirt, you can send an email to my office. As long as you promise to post something and share it with people. We've got someone sent us a picture from London yesterday in one of the red phone booths with a Louisiana Feed Your Soul T-shirt. So we're getting them around the world, so help us promote that brand. Any other questions? Thank you so much for having me today.
Billy, thank you for coming. We have a small gift for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And with no other business, our meeting is adjourned.